A racist contestant walks onto one of America's most watched game shows and makes a catastrophic mistake. He insults Steve Harvey on his own stage, live on television, in front of millions of people watching at home. What happens next isn't just a comeback. It's a complete and total destruction. In the next few minutes, you're going to witness the exact moment a man's arrogance collides with reality, and how one perfectly delivered response erased every ounce of respect he thought he had. To understand what's about to happen, you need to know where we are. We're on the set of one of the most iconic game shows in American television history. Bright lights, massive audience. The kind of energy that only comes from live television, where anything can happen and there's no second take, no edit, no way to undo what's about to be said. This isn't a controlled environment. This isn't a studio where mistakes can be fixed in post-production. This is raw, unfiltered, real-time television where every word matters and every action has consequences that ripple across the entire internet within minutes. The set itself is designed for maximum impact. Everything is bigger than life. The stage is elevated so the host stands literally above the contestants. A subtle but powerful message about hierarchy and authority. The lighting is designed to make everyone look their best, but also to expose everything. There's nowhere to hide under these lights. If you're sweating, everyone sees it. If you're nervous, your body language betrays you. If you're lying, your face gives it away. The cameras are positioned to catch every micro-expression, every eye movement, every moment of hesitation or confidence. Steve Harvey stands at the center of it all. He's not just a host, he's a cultural institution. For decades, he's been the voice that America trusts. He's hosted some of the biggest shows on television. He's interviewed presidents. He's made millions laugh. He's also the man who's seen every type of human behavior you can imagine, the genuine, the desperate, the confident, and the completely delusional. But here's what really matters about Steve Harvey. He's a master of reading people. It's not just a skill he developed over time. It's who he is. He can walk into a room and instantly understand the temperature of that room. He can look at someone's face and know their entire life story. He can detect a lie from across a stage. He can sense when someone's about to cross a line before they even realize they're standing at that line. And he's built an entire career on what he does when that line gets crossed. Steve Harvey has been in this industry long enough to know that there are certain moments, rare moments, when a person reveals their true self on live television. Not the version of themselves they want the world to see. Not the curated version they present on social media. The real version. The unfiltered version. The version that shows who they actually are when they think they can get away with it. He's also learned that when those moments happen, you have a choice. You can let it slide and pretend it didn't happen. You can laugh it off and move on. You can try to smooth things over and keep the peace. Or you can respond in a way that makes it absolutely clear that what just happened was unacceptable, and that the person who said it needs to face the immediate consequences of their actions. Steve Harvey almost always chooses the last option. On this particular day, the studio is packed to capacity. There are other contestants on stage, people who are there to compete, to win, to have fun, to be part of something bigger than themselves. There's a live audience in the seats. Hundreds of people who paid money to be in that room, to witness live television, to be part of the energy and excitement of a broadcast that millions of people will watch later. There are millions of people at home watching. People in every state, people in different countries, people of all ages, all backgrounds, all belief systems. They're watching because they want to be entertained. They want to see genuine moments. They want to see the unpredictable happen. They want to witness something real in a world where so much of what we consume is fake and manufactured and carefully controlled. The cameras are rolling. Multiple cameras. Professional-grade equipment. The kind of setup that captures everything in crystal-clear quality. Everything is being recorded. Everything is permanent. This isn't a podcast you can edit later and remove the problematic moments. This isn't a social media post you can delete if it gets too much backlash. This isn't a conversation between friends that stays private. This is live television, and once something is said on live television, it belongs to the internet forever. The contestant sitting on stage has no idea that any of this actually matters yet. He's confident. Maybe too confident. The kind of confidence that comes from someone who's never really faced real consequences in his life. Maybe he's used to being the funniest person in his friend group. Maybe he's used to making jokes that land. Maybe he's used to people laughing at what he says and validating his sense of humor. The kind of confidence that comes from a bubble of people who enable bad behavior because they don't want to rock the boat or create conflict. He sits in his chair like he owns the place. He's smiling. He's making jokes. He's trying to be the center of attention. He's the type of person who mistakes the stage for validation. Like appearing on television automatically makes him interesting or important or clever. Like being on camera gives him permission to be someone he's not. Like the rules that apply to everyone else don't apply to him because he's in the spotlight. But here's what he doesn't understand, and what he's about to learn the hard way. Appearing on someone else's stage means you're a guest. And guests have rules. Unspoken rules that everyone in that studio knows because they're fundamental to how civilized society works. Rule number 1, you don't disrespect the host. Rule number 2, you don't make it personal. Rule number 3, you especially don't cross into territory that reveals the ugliest parts of who you are on the inside. This contestant is about to break all 3 rules. The game itself is simple in structure. Questions are asked. Answers are given. Some people win money or prizes. Some people lose and go home empty-handed. It's entertainment. It's lighthearted. It's meant to be fun. The whole point is to create moments of joy and laughter and genuine human connection. But the contestant doesn't see it that way. For him, it's not an opportunity to participate in something wholesome. It's an opportunity to be funny, to be memorable, to stand out from the other contestants, to prove he's smarter than everyone else in that room, to show off. He's wrong about all of it. Steve Harvey starts the round like he always does. Professional, warm, engaging, genuine. He's done this thousands of times. He's performed this role so many times that it's become completely natural to him. He knows the rhythm of these moments. He knows how to pace the conversation. He knows how to build momentum toward a punchline. He knows when to pause for effect and when to keep the energy moving forward. He's a master of his craft. He's studied comedy and human interaction his entire life. And as the question is read aloud, as the contestant prepares to answer, Steve is already 3 steps ahead. He's thinking about what's coming next. He's thinking about where the joke might land. He's thinking about how he'll steer the conversation based on what the contestant says. He's in complete control of the moment because he understands the dynamics at play. The question is asked. It's a reasonable question. It's something that requires a thoughtful answer. It's the kind of question designed to prompt genuine responses and create opportunities for authentic human moments. But the contestant doesn't treat it that way. He doesn't pause to think. He doesn't consider his words. He just opens his mouth and speaks. And in that moment, in that single moment, he makes a choice that will define the rest of his life on the internet. He answers the question. His answer is delivered with confidence. Steve Harvey acknowledges the answer with his typical professionalism and grace. There's a beat, a pause, a moment where the energy could go in any direction. The moment stretches. And then the contestant, thinking he's being clever, thinking he's earned the right to push a boundary, thinking this is his moment to shine and prove he belongs on that stage, opens his mouth again. What comes out isn't clever. It isn't witty. It isn't the kind of humor that brings people together. It isn't what anyone in that studio expected to hear from someone sitting on a game show, stage in front of millions of people. It's racism. It's casual and delivered like he's stating a fact. It's confident, like he believes what he's saying. It's spoken like he thinks everyone's thinking the same thing, but nobody's brave enough to say it out loud. And in that moment, the entire energy of the studio shifts. The air literally changes. The audience freezes mid-laugh. The other contestants' faces change expressions. The crew goes completely silent. The energy that was light and fun and entertaining becomes heavy and uncomfortable and tense. Because everyone in that room knows what just happened. They know a line has been crossed. They know this is no longer a game show moment that will be forgotten in a few minutes. This is a moment that will be remembered. This is a moment that will be watched millions of times. This is a moment where one person's character is about to be exposed on live television for everyone to see, judge, and remember forever. And Steve Harvey knows exactly what he's about to do about it. The stakes have just become impossibly high. For the contestant, everything is about to change. His reputation, his social media presence, his ability to walk down the street without being recognized as that guy. His family's experience and how they're treated by people who saw what he did. His job and whether his employer wants to keep him employed after this. His relationships and whether his friends and loved ones will still want to associate with him. His future and what opportunities will still be available to him. All of it hanging in the balance because he thought he was being funny on live television in front of millions of people. But he has no idea what's about to happen next. Because Steve Harvey wasn't about to let this moment pass quietly. He was about to respond in a way that would echo across the internet for years to come. And the contestant was about to realize he'd just made the biggest mistake of his life. The maquinasost silence that follows is deafening. It's the kind of silence that doesn't happen often on live television. Usually there's music, audience reaction, the constant hum of production. But right now, there's nothing. Just pure, uncomfortable silence. And in that silence, every single person watching understands that they're witnessing something unprecedented. Steve Harvey's face changes. It's subtle, but if you're paying attention, you can see it. His expression shifts from the warm, engaging host persona he's been wearing to something else entirely. Something harder. Something that says, "I heard what you just said, and we're about to have a problem." He doesn't yell. He doesn't lose his temper. That's not who Steve Harvey is. He doesn't need to raise his voice to command a room. He doesn't need to be aggressive to make a point. What he does is worse. He becomes completely controlled, calculated, precise. Every word is chosen deliberately. Every gesture is intentional. Every pause is meaningful. Steve leans forward slightly. It's a physical movement that signals dominance without being overtly aggressive. He's closing the distance between himself and the contestant. But more importantly, he's making sure everyone in that studio and everyone watching at home understands that he's about to speak, and they need to listen. And then he does something that very few people in the contestant's life have probably ever done. He calls out exactly what just happened. He doesn't use euphemisms. He doesn't dance around it. He doesn't try to soften the blow. He names it directly. He says the word. He makes it clear that what just came out of the contestant's mouth was racism, and there's no way to reframe it or explain it away or pretend it was a joke. The contestant's face goes pale. His confidence evaporates in an instant. He suddenly realizes that he's not in control of this moment anymore. He's not the funny guy making jokes on stage. He's not the clever contestant who's outsmarting the host. He's the person who just revealed his prejudice on live television in front of millions of people. And the host is about to dismantle him. Steve doesn't stop there. He goes deeper. He points out the hypocrisy. He points out the entitlement. He points out that this is someone's home, someone's show, and the contestant came in as a guest and decided to disrespect that. He makes it personal without being cruel. He's precise without being excessive. He's devastating without being mean-spirited. What makes this moment so powerful is that Steve Harvey doesn't just respond to what was said. He responds to what it represents. He responds to the arrogance. He responds to the assumption that there would be no consequences. He responds to the idea that racism is acceptable in any context, especially not on his stage, in his presence. And here's the thing that makes this even more brutal. The audience begins to react. At first, there's scattered applause. People who are shocked and appalled at what the contestant said and relieved that Steve is calling it out. Then the applause grows. More people join in. The energy shifts. The audience becomes an active participant in the moment. They're not just witnesses anymore. They're validating Steve's response. They're showing the contestant that what he did was unacceptable to everyone in that room. The contestant tries to backpedal. He tries to say he was joking. He tries to minimize what he said. He tries to reframe it as something innocent that was taken the wrong way. But nobody's buying it. Not Steve, not the audience, not the other contestants, not the millions of people watching at home. Because the words he said were clear. The intent was clear. The prejudice was clear. And there's no way to undo it or explain it away. Steve delivers a final statement that will be quoted across the internet for years to come. It's not just about what the contestant said. It's about what it means to be a guest on someone's show. It's about respect. It's about basic human decency. It's about understanding that you don't get to disrespect people because of who they are or where they come from or what they look like. And in that moment, the contestant understands that his life has fundamentally changed. The video will be clipped. It will be shared across social media. It will get millions of views. His name will be trending on Twitter. People will find out who he is. They'll find out where he works. They'll contact his employer. His family will get called. His friends will text him. Every single person in his life will eventually see what he did and hear what he said. There's no going back from this. The camera cuts away. The show moves on, but the moment lingers. It's permanent. It's recorded. It's viral before the episode even finishes airing. The contestant sits in his chair, devastated. He realizes he's not leaving that stage as a contestant. He's leaving as the guy who got destroyed by Steve Harvey on live television for saying something racist. And the internet will never let him forget it. Within minutes of the episode airing, the clip starts spreading. It begins on Twitter. Someone posts the video with a caption like, "Racist contestant gets destroyed by Steve Harvey." And suddenly, it's everywhere. The video gets retweeted thousands of times, then tens of thousands of times. Comments flood in from people expressing outrage, shock, disbelief, validation. The clip moves to other platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit. Every major social media platform picks it up and amplifies it. Content creators start making reaction videos, podcasters start discussing it, news outlets start covering it. The moment that lasted maybe 5 minutes on live television becomes a cultural phenomenon that dominates the internet for days. The contestant's identity gets discovered within hours. Someone recognizes him. Someone knows who he is. His name gets released. His social media accounts get found. His past gets excavated. People dig through years of his posts looking for more evidence of racist behavior, offensive jokes, problematic statements. And they find things. They always find things. His Instagram gets flooded with comments. Angry comments, disappointed comments, comments from people he knows calling him out. His Twitter gets ratioed into oblivion. People are quote tweeting his old posts with context about what he said on the show. His TikTok, if he has one, becomes a target for people who want to make their own content about his racist remarks. Within 24 hours, his employer has seen the video. His HR department has been notified. His boss has questions. His colleagues are talking about him. The company has a decision to make. Do they want to keep someone employed who just displayed racist behavior on live television? The answer, in most cases, is absolutely not. He gets fired, or he resigns before he can be fired. Either way, his job is gone. The stable income that was supporting his life is suddenly gone. The career he was building is suddenly over. The professional relationships he developed are suddenly severed because nobody wants to be associated with him. His family experiences the fallout too. His parents see the video. His siblings see the video. His extended family sees it. Their phones start ringing with calls from relatives asking what happened, why their family member would say something like that. Some family members distance themselves from him. Some defend him but privately think he's an embarrassment. Some feel ashamed that they share DNA with someone capable of displaying that kind of prejudice. His romantic partner, if he has one, has to make a decision. Do they stick with him through this? Do they defend him publicly? Do they try to make it work after this? Or do they recognize that being associated with him is going to damage their own reputation and they need to get out? Most romantic partners choose the latter. His friends start receiving messages. People asking them if they knew he was racist. People wanting to know if his friend group tolerates racist behavior. People questioning whether they should continue being friends with someone who's friends with him. The social cost becomes real and immediate. His address gets found. People show up at his house, some to confront him, some to film content for their social media, some just out of curiosity. His neighborhood becomes unsafe because he's now the local celebrity known for saying something racist on television. He can't go out in public without being recognized. He goes to a coffee shop and someone films him and posts it online with a caption like, "Found the racist guy from Steve Harvey's show." He tries to go to the grocery store and someone approaches him aggressively. He tries to get gas and someone takes a video of him and shares it. There's no anonymity anymore. There's no hiding. He's a marked man. The internet's memory is long and unforgiving. Years from now, someone will Google his name and the first result will be the Steve Harvey clip. A future employer will find it. A future romantic partner will find it. His children, if he has them, will find it. For the rest of his life, this moment will define him on the internet. But it gets worse. Some people take it further. They find his family's information. They find his parents' addresses. They find his siblings' social media accounts. They find the workplace of people he's related to and try to get them in trouble too. The consequences ripple outward to people who didn't say anything racist, who weren't on live television, who had nothing to do with what happened on that stage. Anonymous people on the internet, people who will never face consequences for their actions, decide they're going to be the judge, jury, and executioner. They organize, they coordinate, they dig and they post and they harass until they've turned this person's life into something unrecognizable. And through it all, the video keeps getting watched. New people discover it every day. It gets shared in group chats. It gets shown to friends as an example of someone getting what they deserve. It becomes a meme. People create variations of it. People use it to illustrate larger points about racism in society. The moment becomes detached from the person and becomes a symbol of something bigger. The contestant becomes a cautionary tale. A story people tell about what happens when you're racist on live television. A warning to others about the consequences of saying racist things in public. He becomes the example that proves the internet can cancel you, destroy you, end your life as you knew it. And Steve Harvey? Steve Harvey becomes the hero of the story. He becomes the man who stood up. He becomes the voice of justice in the moment. He becomes celebrated for his response. His viewership might even increase because people want to watch more moments where he calls out bad behavior. The contestant, meanwhile, is dealing with the fallout for months and years. He's not just dealing with being fired. He's dealing with psychological effects, depression, anxiety, PTSD from the harassment. He's dealing with the reality that one moment of poor judgment has become his entire identity to the entire world. Some people try to move past it. They delete their social media. They move to a different city. They try to rebuild their life in obscurity. Some people become bitter and angry. Some people become radicalized by the experience and push further into extremism. Some people struggle with suicidal ideation because the consequences feel unbearable. The ripples from that one moment on live television spread outward and outward and outward, affecting not just the contestant, but everyone around him, everyone connected to him, everyone who will ever learn his name. And it all started with a racist comment on Steve Harvey's show. By day 2, the video has been viewed over 50 million times across all platforms combined. It's not just a trending topic anymore. It's a cultural moment. News networks are covering it. Morning shows are discussing it. Late-night comedians are making jokes about it. The story has transcended social media and entered the mainstream media conversation in a way that few moments do. Major news outlets run headlines. CNN covers it. Fox News covers it. MSNBC covers it. BBC International picks it up. The story goes global. People in different countries are watching the video and learning about this moment. It becomes an international conversation about racism, consequences, and what happens when someone reveals their prejudices on live television. Cable news brings in commentators to discuss what happened. They analyze Steve Harvey's response frame by frame. They talk about the broader implications. They debate whether the contestant's life should be ruined over one moment. Some people argue that the cancellation has gone too far. Other people argue that consequences are necessary and deserved. The discourse becomes complex and heated and unresolved. YouTube is flooded with reaction videos. Creators with millions of subscribers make videos responding to the moment. Racist Gets Destroyed becomes a recurring title format. Every variation of reaction imaginable gets created. People cry watching it. People cheer. People use it to make larger political points. The video becomes a canvas onto which people project their own beliefs and agendas. TikTok users create their own versions. They stitch the video with their own commentary. They create duets where they react alongside the clip. Young people who weren't even watching the original show now have access to the moment and can engage with it in real time. The algorithm pushes the video to millions of people's For You pages. It becomes unavoidable. Reddit threads explode with discussion. Subreddits dedicated to justice, to racism, to television, to Steve Harvey. All of them are filled with threads about this moment. People share their own experiences with racism. People debate the ethics of public shaming. People make predictions about what will happen to the contestant next. The discourse is intense and passionate and divisive. Celebrities weigh in. They post on their social media accounts. Some celebrities praise Steve Harvey for his response. Some celebrities use the moment to talk about their own experiences with racism. Some celebrities make it about themselves and their own platforms. The celebrity commentary adds another layer to the story and extends its reach even further. The hashtag racist contestant starts trending worldwide. It trends on Twitter for hours. It trends on TikTok. It trends on Instagram. People who have never watched the original show are using the hashtag. People in different countries are using the hashtag. It becomes a global conversation point. Think pieces start getting written. Online journalists and columnists write articles analyzing what this moment says about society, about consequences, about justice, about whether the internet's response is proportional or excessive. These articles get shared widely. They fuel further discussion. They add intellectual weight to the conversation. Podcasts dedicate entire episodes to discussing the moment. True crime podcasts pivot to cover it. News podcasts analyze it. Entertainment podcasts discuss it. Comedy podcasts joke about it. The moment becomes content fuel for content creators across every possible platform and genre. The video gets edited and recut in different ways. Someone creates a slow-motion version where they isolate the contestant's facial expressions as he realizes what's happening. Someone creates a version with dramatic music overlaid on top. Someone creates a side-by-side comparison with other moments where Steve Harvey has called out bad behavior. Each version gets millions of views. Memes emerge from the moment. Screenshots of the contestant's face become reaction images. Someone creates a meme format based on his expression. People use it to caption all sorts of situations. The moment becomes detached from its original context and becomes a tool for humor and commentary. People who don't even remember the original incident anymore are still using the memes. The story gets covered in international news. BBC runs a story about it. Al Jazeera covers it. News outlets in Europe, Asia, Africa, they all pick it up. The American moment becomes a global story about consequences and justice and what happens in the age of the internet. Academic discussions start happening. Professors teaching courses on media, on race, on internet culture, on justice. They all start using this moment as a case study. Students are assigned to watch the video and analyze it. Universities are discussing it in seminars. The moment becomes part of the educational canon. Documentarians start reaching out to the contestant, wanting to make films about his experience. Podcasters want to interview him. Publishers approach him about writing a book about his fall from grace. But the contestant doesn't want to participate. He doesn't want to be part of the narrative. He just wants to disappear. But the moment won't let him. It's grown beyond his control. It's grown beyond anyone's control. It's taken on a life of its own. It's become bigger than the individual incident. It's become a symbol of something larger, the power of the internet to hold people accountable, the consequences of racism, the danger of thinking you can say whatever you want without repercussions. The video continues to be shared. Months later, it's still being discovered by new audiences. A year later, people are still watching it for the first time. 2 years later, it's still relevant. 5 years later, it's still being referenced. The moment has achieved a kind of permanence that very few moments achieve. Steve Harvey, meanwhile, becomes even more iconic. His response gets praised endlessly. People talk about his composure. People talk about his ability to handle the situation with grace and power simultaneously. His stock goes up. He becomes not just a host, but a symbol of standing up against racism in real time, without hesitation, without backing down. The contestant becomes a symbol of something else entirely. He becomes the cautionary tale. He becomes the example parents point to when they talk to their children about consequences. He becomes the proof that the internet never forgets. He becomes the reason people think twice before saying racist things in public. And through it all, the video keeps getting watched. The moment keeps rippling outward. The consequences keep expanding. The story keeps evolving. But the most intense part is yet to come. By week 2, the contestant has lost everything that mattered. His job is gone. His apartment lease was terminated because his landlord didn't want the harassment associated with his property. His car got vandalized multiple times, windows smashed, racial slurs spray-painted on the sides, tires slashed. His bank accounts were flooded with hate mail in the form of notifications. His mental health has deteriorated to a point where he's barely functional. He stops going outside. He stops answering his phone. He stops checking his social media because every notification is another person telling him he's a terrible human being, that he deserves what's happening to him, that he should kill himself. The messages are relentless. They don't stop. They don't slow down. They just keep coming, wave after wave, from strangers who feel justified in their cruelty because they believe they're punishing someone who deserves it. The harassment evolves in ways he never anticipated. People show up at his parents' house. They ring the doorbell and confront them about their son. They leave threatening messages on their door. They post his family's address online, creating what's known as doxing, which opens the floodgates for anyone with internet access to target them. His elderly mother becomes terrified to answer her own door. His father becomes paranoid. They install security cameras and alarm systems. They consider moving, but they've lived in their house for 30 years. They're not leaving because of what their son did. His family is suffering in ways that extend far beyond emotional pain. His mother's health deteriorates under the stress. She develops anxiety attacks. She can't sleep at night. She gains weight from stress eating. She loses weight from not being able to eat. She becomes a shadow of who she was before the incident. The woman who raised him, who supported him, who loved him unconditionally, she's being destroyed by association with something he did. His father becomes angry in a way that's dangerous. He bottles up his rage and it comes out in unpredictable bursts. He yells at his wife over minor things. He punches walls. He becomes someone his family doesn't recognize. The stress of having a son who's become infamous, of having strangers show up at his house, of having his family name dragged through the mud, it transforms him into someone darker. His siblings get bullied at school or work because of who they're related to. His sister gets excluded from friend groups because people don't want to be associated with her family. She becomes isolated and depressed. She starts self-harming. She stops going to school. She becomes a casualty of her brother's moment. His brother gets into fights with people who make jokes about his family. He gets suspended from school. He develops anger management issues that will follow him into adulthood. Both of his siblings are suffering consequences for something they had nothing to do with. The family unit that was supposed to support him through this is fracturing under the pressure. Family dinners become tense and silent. His parents fight about how to handle the situation. His father blames his mother for not raising him better. His mother blames his father for not being a strong enough moral influence. They don't blame him directly, but their blame is implicit in every conversation. The love that once held the family together becomes strained under the weight of what's happened. He tries to reach out to a therapist. But the therapist has seen the video too. The therapist is uncomfortable treating him. The therapeutic relationship requires trust, and this therapist can't help but judge the person sitting across from him. The therapist suggests he find someone else. He tries to find another therapist, but they've also seen it. He's become so infamous that even mental health professionals are hesitant to work with him. The isolation deepens exponentially. When he finally finds a therapist who's willing to work with him, the sessions become about processing not just what he said, but the entire fallout. The therapist wants to understand what was in his head when he made the racist comment. Was it a joke he genuinely thought was funny? Was it something he actually believed? Was it something he said to impress someone? Was it a moment of weakness? The contestant struggles to answer these questions because he's not even sure himself anymore. His best friends stop responding to his messages, not because they agree with the harassment, but because being associated with him is becoming too costly socially. They can't go out without people asking them about him. They can't post on social media without getting comments about their friendship with him. They can't introduce him to their romantic partners without having to explain who he is and what he did. The social cost of loyalty becomes too high, and one by one, they disappear. The first friend to abandon him does it with a text message. Just a simple message saying they can't be friends anymore because it's affecting their own life. No. Phone call, no in-person conversation, just a text. The casualness of it somehow makes it worse. It reinforces that he's not even worth a proper goodbye anymore. He's not worth a difficult conversation. He's just worth deleting from their life and moving on. Other friendships end with more drama. Some friends try to stay loyal, but their other friends pressure them to distance themselves. There are conversations about whether it's ethical to remain friends with someone who's racist. There are arguments. There are ultimatums. His friends are forced to choose between him and their other social circles. And almost universally, they choose their other social circles. By the end of the first month, he's completely alone. He has his family, but they're suffering too much to be the support system he needs. He has no friends. He has no job. He has no social connections. He has nothing but his own thoughts and his own shame and his own spiraling mental health. He has a moment where he considers ending it all. Not because the internet told him to, though plenty of people did with messages explicitly encouraging him to commit suicide, but because the psychological weight of what's happened becomes unbearable. The shame is suffocating. It's a physical sensation in his chest, a heaviness that never goes away. He can't eat because he feels nauseous all the time. He can't sleep because his mind won't stop cycling through the moment, through the consequences, through the impossibility of his situation. The isolation is complete. He's not just alone physically. He's alone psychologically. Nobody understands what he's going through. How could they? Most people never experience consequences on this scale. Most people never have millions of strangers actively trying to destroy their life. Most people never have their entire existence reduced to one moment of bad judgment that plays on repeat across the entire internet. The future feels completely hopeless. He can't get a job without being recognized. He can't make friends without the friendship eventually being destroyed when they find out who he is. He can't have a romantic relationship because nobody wants to be publicly associated with him. He can't move to a new city and start over because technology makes anonymity impossible. Every path forward is blocked. Every option is closed. Every possibility is eliminated. He stands on the edge of that decision for hours, genuinely considering whether continuing to live is worth the pain. He researches methods. He thinks about what would be the least traumatic way to do it for his family. He thinks about what he would write in a note. He thinks about whether his death would finally satisfy the people who've been telling him he deserves to die. What stops him isn't hope. It's not a sudden realization that things will get better. It's not a phone call from someone telling him they love him and need him. It's not a moment of spiritual clarity or a reason to live. It's something smaller and more pragmatic. The thought that suicide would just give people more ammunition. They'd say he was weak. They'd say he deserved it. They'd say his death proved they were right about him all along. They'd celebrate his death and feel vindicated. They'd use his suicide as proof that consequences work, that justice was served, that the internet's punishment was justified. And he can't give them that satisfaction. It's a twisted reason to stay alive, not because life is worth living, but because dying would be a victory for the people who've been trying to destroy him. So he doesn't do it. So he lives. But he lives in a diminished state. He exists rather than thrives. He survives rather than flourishes. He becomes a shell of a person going through the motions of staying alive without actually living. Weeks turn into months, and the immediate crisis begins to fade from the headlines. But the permanent damage remains. The video stops trending. The think pieces stop being written. The news cycle moves on to the next scandal, the next moment of viral outrage. But for the contestant, there is no moving on. For him, it's still the moment. It's still fresh. It's still destroying his life every single day. He's become unemployable in his field. No company wants to hire someone with this much negative association. The reputational damage is permanent and incurable. Even if he changed his entire identity, even if he completely transformed himself, the video would still exist. The evidence would still be there. Future employers would still find it. He applies for jobs under fake names, different addresses, anything to hide his identity. Some places hire him, but then someone inevitably finds out who he is. Maybe a coworker Googles him during lunch break. Maybe a customer recognizes his face. Maybe someone online tips off his employer. The discovery always comes. And when it does, he gets fired again. The cycle repeats. He tries to work jobs that don't, who require background checks or references. Gig economy work. Cash jobs. Anything that doesn't require anyone to know who he is. But these jobs pay barely enough to survive. He's constantly broke. He's constantly stressed. He's constantly one emergency away from complete destitution. He tries to move to a different city to start over. He thinks that maybe if he's far enough away, maybe if he's in a place where people don't watch the same television shows, maybe if he's in a different culture or country, he can escape. He saves up money. He gets a new apartment in a city where nobody knows him. He gets a job at a restaurant where the manager doesn't seem to recognize him. For 2 weeks, he thinks it might work. But within days of that 2-week period, someone from his new community recognizes him. Someone finds his address. Someone posts it online. The harassment starts again in this new place. People show up at his apartment building. People call his workplace. People leave threatening messages on his car. He realizes that distance doesn't matter anymore. The internet makes distance irrelevant. No matter where he goes, he can be found. He moves again and again. He becomes a ghost moving from city to city, unable to establish roots, unable to build a life, unable to escape the consequences of one moment. Each move costs money he doesn't have. Each move involves finding a new job, a new apartment, a new life, only to have it destroyed when he's recognized. It becomes a pattern. It becomes his life. The financial impact is devastating in ways that go beyond the obvious. He spent money on legal consultations, trying to get the video taken down. He's hired lawyers who tell him that there's virtually no way to remove the video from the internet. It's been shared too widely. It's on too many platforms. Even if he could get it removed from one site, it would exist on hundreds of others. The lawyers cost thousands of dollars and accomplish nothing. He's spent money on therapy, multiple therapists, different modalities. Nothing helps because the problem isn't something that can be therapeutically resolved. The problem is that millions of people have decided he's a bad person and they're coordinating to punish him. No amount of therapy can fix that. He spent money on moving expenses, deposits for apartments, first month's rent, transportation costs. Each move requires money he doesn't have. Each move adds to his debt burden. He spent money trying to rebuild his life over and over. New clothes for job interviews that don't result in jobs. New electronics to replace ones that were stolen or damaged. New identification documents after he lost originals during one of his many moves. Every attempt at rebuilding costs money. His savings are completely depleted. He had about $15,000 saved when the incident happened. It's all gone. Every penny of it spent trying to survive the consequences of what he did. He goes into debt. He gets a credit card just to survive. He maxes it out. He gets another credit card. He maxes that out too. His credit score tanks. It becomes impossible to get loans. It becomes impossible to rent an apartment under his real name. It becomes impossible to do anything that requires financial credibility. He becomes financially ruined in addition to everything else. He's not just emotionally destroyed and socially isolated. He's also broke. He's also in debt. He's also unable to participate in the basic economic systems that allow people to survive in modern society. He tries to capitalize on his infamy by selling his story. He approaches podcasters and documentary makers wanting to pay for his perspective. He thinks maybe he can make some money by being the subject of content rather than the target of it. Some people do pay him. He makes some money. A few $1,000s here and there. But it's never enough to fix what's been broken. It's never enough to make a dent in his debt. And every interview, every time he tells the story, every time he relives that moment in front of a camera or a microphone, it reopens the wound. He's forced to articulate his shame and his regret and his suffering for an audience that's listening primarily for entertainment. He's become a curiosity. He's become a cautionary tale that people consume for amusement. The interviews help him financially, but destroy him emotionally. People who were sympathetic to him initially start to shift their perspective when they see him trying to profit from his own downfall. They become resentful. They feel like he's not taking responsibility seriously enough. They feel like he's trying to capitalize on the suffering he caused. They feel like his attempt to earn money from his infamy is yet another example of his moral deficiency. The narrative shifts from, "This person got destroyed," to, "This person is trying to make money off their racism." And the harassment intensifies again. He becomes addicted to checking the internet to see what people are saying about him. It's compulsive. It's self-destructive. He reads the hateful comments. He reads the think pieces analyzing his behavior. He reads the memes making fun of him. He reads the Reddit threads debating whether his life should have been ruined. He can't stop. It's like picking at a wound that won't heal. He's drawn to the very thing that's destroying him. He knows it's hurting him. He knows that reading the comments is making his mental health worse. But he can't stop because some part of him believes he deserves the punishment. Some part of him believes that reading the hatred directed at him is penance for what he did. Some part of him thinks that if he reads enough vitriol, if he absorbs enough anger, if he punishes himself enough, maybe he can somehow balance the scales of justice. It's a form of self-harm. It's as destructive as cutting or starvation. But it's socially acceptable because it involves the internet instead of physical injury. Nobody intervenes. Nobody tells him to stop. The algorithm keeps showing him more hateful content about himself because the algorithm feeds on engagement, and his engagement with content about himself is intense and regular. Years pass. He's older now. He's aged in a way that shows the stress and suffering. His face carries the weight of what happened. There are premature wrinkles. There's gray hair that didn't exist 5 years ago. There's a hollowness in his eyes that speaks to psychological damage. People who meet him without knowing his history sometimes ask him if he's okay, if he's dealing with something heavy. He is. He always will be. He has moments where he tries to move forward. He gets a job at a small business where the owner doesn't know who he is. He works hard. He shows up on time. He does good work. He builds some stability. He makes a few friends who don't know his history. He starts going to the gym. He starts eating better. He starts to believe that maybe he can build a life from the ashes of what he destroyed. He starts to believe that maybe he can move forward. And then, inevitably, someone finds out. Someone recognizes him or researches him or discovers the video. Maybe it's another employee who Googles him after they become closer friends. Maybe it's a customer who sees him and recognizes something familiar about his face. Maybe it's someone who finds his social media from years ago and pieces together who he is. The discovery always comes, and when it does, everything falls apart again. He gets fired, or he resigns before he can be fired. The fragile stability he built collapses instantly. The friendships he was developing become awkward and strained. People don't want to hang out with him anymore. People don't want to be associated with him anymore. He's back to square one. He's back to being alone. He's back to being the guy from that video. The video never stops getting watched. New generations of people discover it. Young people who weren't even born when it happened are watching it now and learning about him. He'll never escape it. That moment has become permanent. It's become a part of his permanent record. It's become the first thing that comes up when anyone searches his name. It defines him more than anything else he's ever done or will ever do. He's become a living example of consequences. Not because the legal system held him accountable. He didn't break any laws. Not because his employer fired him. They eventually did. But that was corporate liability, not justice. He's become an example of what happens when millions of strangers decide they're going to punish someone, and they coordinate that punishment through the power of the internet. And the worst part is, he deserves some consequences. What he said was racist. It was offensive. It was wrong. He should face consequences for that. There's no argument about that. Consequences are appropriate. But the consequences have become disproportionate. They've exceeded anything that would be considered fair or just or proportional to the offense. They've destroyed not just him, but everyone connected to him. His family members are dealing with collateral damage. His siblings are dealing with the long-term psychological effects of having their family name destroyed. His parents are dealing with the shame and the stress. His extended family is dealing with the association. His family's friends are dealing with the awkwardness. People he went to school with are dealing with the fact that they know him. The ripples extend outward in ways that affect people who had absolutely nothing to do with what he said. But nobody talks about that part of the story. Nobody talks about the proportionality of punishment. Nobody talks about whether ruining someone's entire life and their family's lives is justice or just revenge dressed up as accountability. Nobody talks about the ethics of coordinated harassment or the dangers of mob justice. Nobody talks about what happens to a person who's been destroyed by the internet. The contestant lives with that knowledge every single day. He lives knowing that what he did was wrong, but also knowing that the punishment has exceeded any reasonable measure of justice. He lives knowing that he caused harm, but also knowing that he and everyone around him have been harmed far beyond what he caused. He lives in that contradiction every single day, unable to resolve it, unable to escape it. He becomes a living cautionary tale, not just about the dangers of racism, but about the dangers of the internet, about the dangers of coordinated harassment, about the dangers of the internet never forgetting, about the dangers of mob justice disguised as accountability.